The big meeting room was full of angry voices. Alien creatures from across the galaxy sat in their special chairs, all talking at once. Their voices mixed together into a loud mess of sounds that hurt to hear. Captain Jake Morrison sat quietly in the human section. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. Next to him, Dr. Lisa Carter wrote notes on her tablet. She had green eyes and moved her fingers fast as she tried to keep up with all the different languages being spoken. At the front of the room, a big lizard creature slammed his hand on the speaking stand. His name was Ambassador Zefkiller, and he was very angry. His yellow eyes glowed like fire, and his long tongue flicked out between sharp teeth. "The humans will not fight with us," he said, his voice like the sound of breaking glass. "They say they do not want war. But the Druckery monsters are eating our worlds. They take everything and leave nothing behind." The other aliens in the room made sounds of agreement. Some clicked their teeth. Others made buzzing noises. A few roared softly. They were all upset with the humans. The Druckery were like space bugs, but much bigger and hungrier. They came to planets and ate everything they could find. Plants, animals, even the ground itself. When they were done, the planet was just a dead rock floating in space. "For 3 years, these creatures have been destroying our homes," the lizard alien continued. "They have already eaten the Kellen planet and 3 colonies, but the humans say they want to talk to them instead of fight them." A giant bug creature stood up. She was Queen Zilla, and she ruled over billions of bug people. Her voice came out like the sound of grinding metal. "There is no talking to the Druckery," she said. "They only know how to eat and destroy. They must be killed before they kill. US all." More angry sounds filled the room. Captain Morrison looked around at all the upset faces. Some of the aliens were twice as tall as him. Others had more arms than he could count. A few had metal parts attached to their bodies. But they were all afraid of the same thing. The Druckery had been moving across the galaxy like a storm. Every planet they touched became empty and dead. The alien races had tried to fight them, but nothing worked. The space bugs just kept coming, eating everything in their path. Finally, Captain Morrison stood up. The room became quiet as everyone looked at him. He was smaller than most of the aliens, but something about the way he stood made them listen. "Honored friends," he said, his voice clear and strong. "We humans do not refuse to help you. We just think there might be a better way than fighting." The lizard alien made a sound like laughing, but it was not a happy laugh. "A better way? These monsters have already destroyed entire worlds. What better way is there except to destroy them first?" Captain Morrison kept his face calm, but Dr. Carter could see his hands were tight. "Maybe we should try to understand them first." The room exploded with noise. Aliens shouted in languages that sounded like breaking metal, howling wind, and crashing waves. They could not believe what the human had said. "Understand them?" Queen Zilla's voice cut through the noise. "While they eat us alive? This is why. Your people will never be important in our galaxy. You are too weak to do what needs to be done." Ryan Brooks, the human diplomat, stood up next to Morrison. He was a young man with brown hair and smart eyes. "Your Majesty, humans have faced dangerous enemies before. We have learned that knowing your enemy can help you win better than just fighting." A robot-looking alien with glowing red eyes hit the table with his metal hand. "Your people have only been in space for a short time. What could you know about war that we do not?" Captain Morrison's jaw got tight. It was a small sign, but Dr. Carter noticed it. She had studied human history, and she knew what that look meant. "We know more than you think," Morrison said quietly. The meeting went on for hours. The aliens kept getting angrier and angrier. They wanted the humans to bring their spaceships and fight alongside them. They could not understand why the humans kept saying no. "You have good weapons," said General Thrack. a huge warrior alien with scars all over his face. "Your ships are fast and strong. Why will you not use them?" Dr. Carter looked up from her notes. She had been studying the aliens for months, and she was starting to understand something important. These creatures saw war as something noble and good. They thought fighting was the best way to solve problems, but humans were different. Humans had learned something else about war, something these aliens did not know. "Because fighting is not always the answer," Morrison said. "Sometimes it makes things worse." The aliens made more angry noises. They thought the humans were cowards. They thought humans were afraid to fight. "If you will not fight," the lizard alien said, "then you are no friends of ours. When the Drakari come to eat your world, do not ask us for help." Morrison looked at the alien for a long time. "Ambassador, I hope you never find out why humans really do not like war." The meeting ended badly. The aliens decided to fight the Drakari without human help. They made plans to send thousands of spaceships to attack the space bugs. They were sure they could win if they just used enough force. As the humans prepared to leave, Dr. Carter finished writing her notes. She had been watching the aliens carefully, and she understood something they did not. These creatures thought war was about honor and glory and being brave. They fought because they thought it was the right thing to do, but humans had learned something different about war. They had learned that sometimes the worst thing you can do is win a fight. Sometimes being too good at fighting made you into something terrible. The aliens saw human reluctance to fight as weakness. They did not understand that it was actually strength. The strength to hold back something that should not be let loose. Queen Zilla walked over to Dr. Carter as the humans were packing up. "Doctor, do you really think you can talk to these monsters?" Dr. Carter looked up at the giant bug queen. "Your Majesty, we think we can learn what they really want. Maybe they are not just mindless destroyers. Maybe they have a purpose. And if you are wrong, if they are just killers?" Dr. Carter closed her tablet and stood up. "Then the galaxy will see what humans become when we stop trying to find peaceful solutions, and I pray that never happens." The alien queen tilted her head, confused by the humans' words. She did not understand the warning hidden in them. As the humans left the meeting room, Captain Morrison sent a message back to Earth. The message was short but important. "The aliens want us to fight. They think we are weak because we seek peace. They do not understand that we avoid war not because we cannot fight, but because we know what we become when we do. Recommend we continue diplomatic efforts. If forced to fight, suggest Operation Lazarus protocols be readied." Back on Earth, military leaders read the message with grave faces. They knew what Operation Lazarus meant. They knew what humans had built in case they ever had to fight for their survival. The aliens thought humans were weak. They thought humans were afraid to fight. They had no idea how wrong they were. In space, the Drakari continued their slow advance across the galaxy, eating worlds and leaving nothing behind. The alien coalition prepared their fleets for war, sure that enough firepower could solve any problem. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, human ships waited and watched, hoping that diplomacy would work, but ready for something much worse if it did not. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson about the difference between those who fight because they want to and those who fight because they have to. 3 weeks after the big meeting, the human spaceship Endeavour came out of fast space travel near a dead star system. The system used to have 3 planets full of life, but now it was empty and cold. Commander Ben Hayes stood on the ship's control room, looking at the computer screens. He was an older man with gray hair who had been a space soldier for 25 years. But he had never seen anything like this before. "Sir, the long-distance sensors confirm it," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from her computer station. She was young with blonde hair and worried eyes. "The whole system is completely dead. No power, no radio signals, nothing at all." Dr. Susan Wright frowned as she looked at her readings. She was the ship's expert on alien life forms. That cannot be. Right. Even after mining a planet, there should be some leftover energy or broken pieces floating around. Chief Science Officer Paul Martinez brought up pictures on the big screen. He was a smart man who understood how planets worked. Doctor, look at these before and after pictures. The planets are not just dead, they are smaller. The Drakari did not just mine them. They ate about 30% of each planet. Everyone in the control room became quiet. They were trying to understand what this meant. If the Drakari could eat planets, they were much more dangerous than anyone thought. Communications Officer Danny Clark broke the silence. Sir, we have an important message coming from Earth Command. Put it on the screen, Lieutenant. Admiral Helen Torres appeared on the main screen. She was the head of Earth's space military, and she looked very serious and worried. Commander Hayes, I trust you have seen the sensor information? Yes, Admiral. It is much worse than we thought it would be. Admiral Torres nodded grimly. It gets worse. The alien coalition attacked a Drakari fleet near the Rigel area. They had 3 times as many ships and better weapons. Hayes felt his stomach drop. He knew from the Admiral's face that the news was bad. Had Admiral? Complete destruction. 67 coalition ships destroyed in less than 4 hours. The Drakari lost very few ships and have started moving faster toward planets with people on them. They are now moving twice as fast as before. Dr. Wright stepped forward. Admiral, we need more time to study them. If we can understand how they behave and what they want. Doctor, you have 72 hours before the coalition demands that we send our military to help them immediately. After that, they will think that our continued neutrality means we are working with the Drakari. The message ended, leaving the control room crew in tense quiet. Hayes turned to his science team. You heard the Admiral. 72 hours to learn what a dozen alien species could not discover in 6 months. Dr. Wright set her jaw with determination. Then we better get started right now. The next 60 hours became a blur of hard work. The Endeavor's crew worked in shifts around the clock. They studied Drakari biological signatures, looked at their movement patterns, and tried to understand their seemingly mindless eating behavior. Some crew members did not sleep for 2 days straight. Others took short naps at their workstations. Everyone knew that the future of humanity might depend on what they could learn in these 3 days. Dr. Wright spent hours looking at tissue, samples that the Drakari had left behind. She found that their cells were unlike anything she had ever seen. They seemed designed to break down any kind of organic matter and turn it into more Drakari tissue. Lieutenant Foster tracked their movement patterns across dozens of star systems. She found that they always moved in the same way, following specific routes that made no sense. If they were just hungry animals looking for food. But it was Dr. Martinez who made the big discovery. At hour 68, he burst into the meeting room where Hayes and Wright were looking over their findings. Commander, I think I know what they are. Hayes looked up from the data sheets scattered across the table. Tell me, Paul. They are not a natural species. They are a biological weapon. Martinez turned on the 3-dimensional display, showing a complex molecular structure. Look at their cell composition. Every Drakari organism shares identical genetic markers. This is impossible in nature. They were designed by someone. Dr. Wright leaned forward, studying the data carefully. Designed by who? That is the most important question. But here is what I know. They are programmed to consume until they reach a specific amount of biological material, then they go to sleep. The problem is, no one has ever let them reach that amount. Hayes felt pieces of the puzzle clicking into place in his mind. Because every species that meets them tries to fight them immediately. Exactly. The Coalition's attacks trigger their defensive expansion protocols. The more you fight them, the faster they spread and the more aggressive they become. Dr. Wright was already running calculations on her tablet. Paul, if your theory is correct, and they are designed to reach a specific threshold before going dormant, then we might be able to satisfy that threshold artificially. Martinez pulled up another display. I have identified the specific organic compounds they are seeking. We could make them in our laboratories. Hayes stared at the data, understanding what this meant. You are suggesting we feed them instead of fighting them. I am suggesting we understand what they were created for before we condemn the galaxy to an endless war. The idea was so simple that it seemed crazy. Instead of fighting the Drekari, they would give them what they wanted. Instead of trying to destroy them, they would try to satisfy them. But there were risks. If they were wrong, feeding the Drekari might make them stronger and more dangerous. If the biological weapon theory was incorrect, they might be helping the enemy destroy more worlds. The final 4 hours of their deadline were spent confirming Martinez's theory and preparing their proposal. They ran test after test, checking their data from every angle they could think of. Dr. Wright discovered that the Drekari showed specific behavioral changes when they encountered certain organic compounds. They became less aggressive and moved more slowly, as if they were becoming satisfied. Lieutenant Foster found patterns in their expansion that supported the threshold theory. The Drekari seemed to be looking for something specific, not just eating everything they could find. Martinez refined his calculations and determined exactly what compounds the Drekari needed and how much of each one. The amounts were huge, but not impossible for human industrial capacity to produce. As the Endeavor prepared to return to Coalition space, Hayes recorded a message to Admiral Torres. Admiral, we may have found a solution, but it is going to require the Coalition to trust humanity's judgment over their warrior instincts. Given their current opinion of us, that might be the hardest battle we have ever fought. Hayes paused the recording and looked around the control room. His crew was exhausted, but hopeful. They had worked harder than ever before, and they believed they had found the answer, but Hayes knew something his crew did not fully understand yet. He had read the classified files about humanity's real military capabilities. He knew what would happen if the Coalition forced humans to fight. The aliens thought humans were weak because they avoided war. They did not understand that humans avoided war because they were too good at it. Because when humans really fought, when they stopped holding back, they became something terrible. Hayes resumed his recording. Admiral, if the Coalition rejects our proposal and forces us into military action, I recommend that we prepare the Lazarus protocols. The galaxy thinks we are weak. If we have to show them our strength, we need to be ready for the consequences. The message was sent as the Endeavor jumped back into fast space travel. Behind them, the dead system served as a reminder of what the Drekari could do. Ahead of them, the Coalition fleet waited for answers that they might not want to hear. In the depths of space, more Drekari fleets moved toward inhabited worlds, driven by programming that no one understood. Time was running out, and the galaxy was about to face a choice between trusting human wisdom and learning why humans truly shunned war. The emergency meeting happened on the huge Coalition battleship Vengeance. The ship was as big as a city and served as the command center for the war against the Drekari. The war room was packed with military leaders and politicians from across the galaxy. Their faces showed how worried and angry they were about their recent defeats. Commander Hayes stood before the assembled Coalition leadership. His small human group looked tiny compared to the big alien commanders around the table. General Frack of the Karathi people was 7 feet tall and had won many wars before joining the Coalition. He looked down at the human with clear hatred in his eyes. You claim to have a solution, human, yet your species has given nothing to our war effort. Why should we listen to soft words from those who do not have the courage to fight? Dr. Wright stepped forward with her tablet, showing the molecular analysis they had discovered. General, with respect, fighting the Drakari may be exactly the wrong thing to do. The room exploded with angry voices. Fleet Admiral Corvex of the Nexus Armada had metal parts attached to his body that glowed red when he got upset. He slammed his metal fist on the table hard enough to crack it. "This is crazy. We have lost 300 ships and 12 colonies to these creatures. The only solution is to kill them all." Hayes raised his hand for quiet. "Admiral, may I ask how many Drakari ships you destroyed in your last battle?" 47 confirmed. "Kills," Corvex replied with pride in his voice. "And how many new Drakari ships appeared in the following week?" The Metal Admiral's expression became dark and angry. "Intelligence suggests about 200 new ships." Dr. Martinez turned on the three-dimensional display, showing how the Drakari members grew bigger and bigger. Every attack makes them reproduce faster. The more pressure you put on them, the faster they multiply. You are not fighting an enemy. You are feeding a biological response system. Queenzilla's mouthparts clicked with worry. "You suggest we simply allow them to eat our worlds?" "We suggest you allow us to test a different approach," Hayes replied calmly. "Give us one Drakari fleet to work with. If we fail, you can go back to your military campaign." General Thrax's laugh was harsh and mean. "One fleet? You will be eaten in minutes. Your small ships cannot stand against Drakari biovessels. We do not plan to fight them." The silence that followed was complete. Finally, Admiral Corvex leaned forward, his mechanical voice filled with disbelief. "You plan to surrender to them?" Dr. Wright pulled up another display on the big screen. "We plan to communicate with them." The room exploded in outrage. Several coalition commanders stood up, shouting across the table in different alien languages. The noise was so loud it hurt to hear. Through all the chaos, General Thrax's voice cut like a knife. "This is madness. The Drakari are mindless eaters. They cannot be reasoned with, talked to, or made peaceful. They exist only to devour everything." Hayes waited for the noise to die down before speaking. "General, has anyone actually tried to communicate with them?" "Of course not. You cannot talk to a plague. But what if they are not a plague?" Dr. Martinez said loudly. "What if they are a tool, created for a specific purpose, and that purpose is not simply to destroy everything?" Fleet Commander Zara of the Stellar Federation was one of the few reasonable voices in the room. She leaned back in her chair and looked thoughtful. "Explain your theory, human." Dr. Wright took the lead. "Based on our analysis, the Drakari were artificially created as a biological harvesting system. They are programmed to collect specific organic compounds until they reach a predetermined amount. The problem is, every species attacks them before they can complete their programming, which triggers their defensive protocols," Martinez continued, "making them more aggressive and causing them to reproduce faster than normal." Hayes looked around the room at all the angry alien faces. "We believe that if we can satisfy their programming requirements artificially, they will return to being dormant." General Thrax's head crest flared with anger. "And if you are wrong? If feeding them only makes them stronger and more dangerous? Then you will have one well-fed Drakari fleet to deal with instead of the exponentially expanding swarm you are facing now." The debate continued for hours. Coalition leaders argued about military rules, species pride, and how impossible it was to trust human judgment. They talked about honor and glory and the proper way to conduct war. They could not understand why humans wanted to avoid fighting. Some aliens said that humans were cowards who did not understand real warfare. Others said that humans were too young a species to know how dangerous the galaxy could be. A few suggested that humans might secretly be working with the Drek Carey. Dr. Wright tried to explain the science behind their theory. She showed them data about Drakari behavior patterns and biological needs. She proved that fighting them only made the situation worse, But the aliens did not want to hear about science. They wanted to hear about weapons and battles and glorious victories over their enemies. Finally, Fleet Admiral Corvex called for a vote. His metal fingers drummed against the table as he spoke. All those in favor of allowing the humans to attempt their communication with the Drekari fleet. 3 hands rose slowly. Commander Zara believed in trying new approaches. Dr. Kell of the Scientific Collective thought the human theory made sense. And surprisingly, Queen Zilla raised her hand too. Those opposed to this plan? 11 hands rose immediately. The vote was not even close. Corvex nodded grimly. The motion fails completely. Humanity will join the military coalition or be considered in violation of Galactic Security Protocol 7. Hayes stood slowly, his expression unreadable. No one could tell what he was thinking or feeling. Admiral, you are asking us to participate in a strategy that we believe will doom the galaxy to endless war. We are asking you to do your duty as a member species of this coalition. And if we refuse to fight, General Thrack's smile was like that of a predator about to attack. Then the coalition will consider humanity a potential threat to galactic security. The threat hung in the air like a sharp blade ready to fall. Dr. Wright looked at Hayes, seeing the calculation in his eyes. She knew that look from history books. She had seen it in the faces of human leaders when they were faced with impossible choices. Hayes straightened his shoulders and stood as tall as he could. We need 24 hours to talk with Earth Command. You have 12 hours, Corvex replied coldly. Not a minute more. As the human group left the war room, Queen Zilla approached Dr. Wright privately. The big insect queen's compound eyes looked worried. Doctor, off the record, do you truly believe your theory will work? Wright met the alien queen's many eyes. Directly, Your Majesty, I believe our theory is correct. Whether the coalition will give us the chance to prove it is another question entirely. And if they force you to fight in their war? Wright's expression grew distant, as if she was looking at something far away and terrible. Then the galaxy will learn why humans truly shun war, Your Majesty. And I pray to whatever gods exist that it never comes to that. The insect queen tilted her head, confused by the human's strange words. She did not understand the warning hidden in them. Like all the other aliens, she thought humans were weak because they avoided fighting. As the human delegation walked back to their ship, Hayes sent an encrypted message to Earth Command. The message was short but carried enormous weight. Coalition has rejected our proposal and threatens military action against Earth if we do not join their war effort immediately. Request authorization for Operation Lazarus. Time to show them why we prefer peace. Back on Earth, military leaders read the message with serious faces. They knew what Operation Lazarus meant. They knew what humans had built and prepared in case they ever had to fight for their survival. The aliens thought humans were weak and cowardly. They thought humans were afraid to fight and did not understand real warfare. They had no idea how terribly wrong they were about to discover they had been. The message came through on a secret channel at 3 in the morning ship time. Admiral Torres appeared on the secure screen in Commander Hayes' private room. Her face carried the weight of a decision that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Ben, the President has made the final decision. You are authorized to proceed with Operation Lazarus. Hayes felt his blood turn ice cold. Admiral, surely there must be another way. If we could just convince them to let us try our peaceful approach. They have given us 6 hours to deploy our fleet in support of their next major attack, or they will classify humanity as a hostile force. Torres leaned forward, her eyes as hard as steel. Ben, they are threatening to blockade Earth. They have 1,200 ships positioned throughout our space. They would not dare attack a human world. They think we are weak. They think we will give up and do what they want. Torres paused, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. They have no idea what they are about to wake up. Hayes closed his eyes, feeling the weight of all human history on his shoulders. How many ships, Admiral? The entire home fleet. 200 vessels, plus the Retaliation, the Retribution, and the Resolution. Hayes' eyes snapped open. The three R-class vessels were humanity's most closely guarded secret. Ships built not for exploration or defense, but for one terrible purpose that no one wanted to think about. Admiral, those ships have never been tested in actual combat. They will not need to be tested, Ben. They were designed for complete extermination. The transmission ended, leaving Hayes alone with the most terrible decision of his career. Within an hour, his senior staff was assembled in the briefing room. Their faces reflected the gravity of what was about to happen. Dr. Wright spoke first, her voice shaking slightly. Commander, there has to be another way. If we could just show them our research data. The Coalition has made their position very clear, Doctor. They want us to fight, or they will consider us enemies of the galaxy. Hayes turned on the tactical display. Earth Command has authorized Operation Lazarus. The room fell completely silent. Chief Martinez was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. Sir, Lazarus was not designed for the Drakari. It was designed for other situations. I am fully aware of what it was designed for, Chief. Lieutenant Foster looked confused and worried. Sir, I am not familiar with Operation Lazarus. What exactly is it? Hayes and his senior staff exchanged glances. These were conversations that had never been supposed to happen. Finally, Dr. Wright spoke carefully. Amy, before humanity reached the stars, we faced the possibility of extinction several times. Nuclear war, climate collapse, asteroid impacts. Operation Lazarus was our insurance policy. Insurance against what? Hayes pulled up a classified schematic that showed 3 massive vessels. Their designs were unlike anything in the Coalition. Fleet, where alien ships were built for honor, for glory, for the pageantry of war. These ships were built with one single purpose: complete and total destruction of any threat to humanity. Against anything that threatened human survival. Hayes said quietly. The display showed the 3 R-class ships in detail. They were larger than most Coalition vessels, but their size was not what made them terrifying. It was what they carried. Inside, Chief Martinez continued the explanation, his voice heavy with the weight of terrible knowledge. The Coalition species see war as a noble pursuit. Amy, honorable combat between worthy opponents who follow rules and show respect for each other. Humans learn something very different about war. Dr. Wright activated another display showing Earth's bloody history. When we were still confined to our home planet, we developed weapons capable of sterilizing our entire world. Chemical weapons, biological warfare, nuclear arsenals that could end all civilization. We learned to wage war without mercy, without honor, without any limits at all. Hayes took over the explanation. The Coalition races never faced that kind of existential pressure on their home worlds. They wage war with rules, with codes of conduct, with respect for their enemies. They cannot even imagine warfare designed solely to exterminate every trace of an opponent. Lieutenant Foster stared at the schematics with growing horror. What exactly are these ships capable of, sir? The Resolution carries biological weapons capable of sterilizing entire star systems. Every living thing, down to the smallest microorganism, can be eliminated. Hayes paused, his voice getting quieter. The Retribution is equipped with quantum depth charges that can destabilize a planet's core and break it apart from the inside. And the Retaliation? Foster asked, though she was not sure she wanted to know. Hayes was quiet for a long moment. The Retaliation carries weapons that violate 17 interstellar war crimes, treaties that do not even exist yet. The briefing room fell silent as the full implications sank in. Finally, Dr. Wright spoke with a voice full of sadness. Commander, if we deploy these weapons against the Drakari, We will solve the Coalition's problem permanently and completely, and prove every terrible thing they suspect about humanity is actually true. Hayes stood up, his decision made. The weight of it showed in every line of his face. The Coalition wants to see human warfare. They will get exactly what they asked for. He turned to his communications officer. Danny, send a message to Fleet Admiral Corvex. Tell him humanity is ready to join the war effort. What should I tell him about our tactics, sir? Hayes looked around the room at his officers, seeing his own grim determination reflected in their faces. Each one of them understood what was about to happen, and each one of them knew there would be no going back. Tell him that humans do not fight wars. Lieutenant, we end them. As the human fleet moved toward the meeting coordinates, every crew member knew they were about to cross a line that could never be uncrossed. They were about to show the galaxy what humans became when they stopped trying to be civilized. Dr. Wright made one final entry in her personal log before the battle began. The Coalition believes they are about to witness human cowardice transformed into courage. They have no idea they are about to witness the most terrifying aspect of humanity, our complete willingness to become monsters to protect what we love. The Drakari swarm waited ahead, mindless and consuming, driven by programming they did not understand. Behind them, the Coalition fleet prepared for what they believed would be another glorious battle with clear rules and honorable conduct. Neither the Drakari nor the Coalition understood that they were about to witness why humanity had learned to shun war. Not from weakness, not from cowardice, but from the terrible knowledge of what they became when they stopped holding back. The 3 R-class ships moved into position, their crews checking systems that had never been used in actual combat. Weapons that existed in violation of every moral principle that civilized species held dear. In a few hours, the galaxy would understand why humans preferred peace. They would learn that human reluctance to fight came not from inability, but from the certain knowledge that when humans truly went to war, nothing and no one survived. The countdown to Operation Lazarus had begun, and there would be no mercy for anyone caught in its path. The combined Coalition fleet stretched across space like a metal city floating in the darkness. 1,200 ships from dozens of different species arranged themselves in perfect battle formation. At the front, the massive Karathi battleship Eternal Glory carried General Thrak in the Coalition High Command. Their viewing screens focused on the approaching Drakari swarm. Behind the main fleet, almost forgotten, the human ships held their position. 200 vessels that seemed small and unimportant compared to the massive alien warships around them. Only the 3 R-class ships drew any attention, and that was because their strange designs puzzled the Coalition tactical experts. The humans finally show themselves, General Thrak rumbled to his staff officers. Though I question what those tiny vessels can accomplish against the swarm. Fleet Admiral Corvex studied the tactical display from his command ship. His metal fingers drummed against the control panel. Their largest vessels are half the size of our cruisers. Perhaps they plan to serve as scouts or support ships. On the bridge of the human flagship Unity, Commander Hayes watched the Drakari fleet approach. 500 bioships moved through space with the mindless hunger that had consumed dozens of worlds. Their living hulls pulsed with organic energy that made them look more like sea creatures than spaceships. Sir, we are receiving final tactical coordination from Coalition Command, reported Lieutenant Foster. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. They want us to form the third wave, behind the Karathi and Nexus fleets. Hayes nodded grimly. Acknowledged. Signal the R-class vessels to prepare for Lazarus deployment. Dr. Wright stood beside him, her face pale as she monitored the Drakari biosignatures on her instruments. Ben, my readings show they are already becoming agitated. The presence of this many Coalition ships is triggering their defensive protocols. How long before they start reproducing at accelerated rates? At this rate, maybe an hour after the first shots are fired. Then it will be too late to stop them. Hayes activated his command channel so that every human ship could hear him. All human vessels, this is Commander Hayes. Coalition Command believes this is a battle. They expect us to fight with honor, to follow the rules of civilized warfare. He paused, his voice carrying across the fleet like a death sentence. They are about to learn why humanity chooses peace whenever possible. The Coalition fleet opened fire first. Thousands of energy beams and projectiles streaked across space toward the Drekari swarm like a deadly light show. The bioships absorbed the punishment, their living hulls regenerating even as they were damaged. Return fire came in the form of organic projectiles that ate through armor, plating like acid through paper. Coalition front line is taking heavy casualties, reported Chief Martinez. The Drekari are adapting to their weapons in real time, just like we predicted. Hayes watched as mighty Coalition vessels were consumed by the biological weapons of their enemies. Proud warriors who had conquered entire civilizations found themselves helpless against an enemy that fought without honor, without mercy, without any hesitation at all. The alien ships tried to fight according to their codes of honor. They attempted to disable rather than destroy. They followed rules of engagement that the Drekari did not understand or care about. They died bravely and uselessly. "Sir, General Thrak is requesting immediate human support," Foster called out. "His flagship is under heavy attack." Hayes looked around his bridge crew one final time. Each face reflected the same terrible understanding. "Are we really going to do this?" Dr. Wright met his eyes. "Ben, if we do not act now, the Coalition will keep fighting until the Drekari have consumed the entire galaxy. And then they will come for Earth. But if we do this, if we show them what human warfare really looks like, then maybe the galaxy will understand why we prefer peace to this." Hayes activated the fleet-wide channel. His voice was calm, but everyone who heard it felt a chill run down their spine. "All ships, initiate Lazarus Protocol. Authorization Omega-77. Across the human fleet, weapon systems that had never been used in combat came online. Warning lights flashed red. As safety protocols were disabled, crews that had trained for this moment but hoped it would never come prepared to unleash humanity's darkest creations. The Resolution launched canisters that spread through space like seeds on the wind. But these seeds carried a bioengineered plague specifically designed to consume Drekari's cellular structure. The virus spread faster than the Drekari could adapt, eating them from the inside out. The Retribution fired quantum charges that did not just destroy enemy ships but erase them from existence at the molecular level. Where Drekari vessels had been, there was suddenly nothing but empty space, as if they had never existed at all. The retaliation unleashed weapons that Coalition scientists would later classify as violations of the fundamental laws of civilized warfare. Weapons that attacked not just the body, but the very concept of life itself. The effect was immediate and horrifying. Drekari bioships did not just die. They dissolved, their living matter breaking down into component atoms that scattered like dust in the solar wind. The few that survived the initial assault found their reproductive systems failing as the biological weapons spread through their fleet like wildfire. Within 30 minutes, 500 Drekari vessels had been reduced to less than 20 barely functioning wrecks that drifted helplessly through space. The Coalition fleet fell silent. Their weapons were forgotten as they watched the clinical efficiency of human warfare. No glory, no honor, no respect for the enemy. Just complete and total extermination carried out with scientific precision. On the eternal glory, General Thrak stared at the tactical display in stunned silence. His mouth hung open as he tried to process what he had just witnessed. "What kind of weapons are those?" whispered one of his staff officers, his voice full of terror. Fleet Admiral Corvex's mechanical voice was filled with something approaching fear. "Those are not weapons. Those are extinction tools." On the Unity's bridge, Dr. Wright monitored the aftermath with instruments that could barely make sense of what they were recording. Ben, the remaining Drekari are sending out distress signals. Not to other swarms, but to whoever created them. Hayes felt a chill run down his spine. Are you getting a response? Yes, coordinates to a system in the Void Quarter. And Ben, the signal is coming from a human-designed beacon. The implications crashed over the bridge crew like a tidal wave. Chief Martinez was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. The Drekari were not created by an alien species. They were created by humans, Dr. Wright finished quietly. During the colony wars 2 centuries ago, when Earth lost contact with the Tau Ceti colony, this is what we sent to clean up the contamination. Hayes felt the weight of human history crushing down on him. The galaxy is facing the threat that humanity created. A biological weapon designed to consume everything until it reached Earth-normal organic levels, then report back for new orders. The communication channel crackled to life. General Thrax's voice was subdued, completely lacking its usual bombast and arrogance. Commander Hayes, we request immediate discussion of these weapons your species has deployed. Hayes looked around. His bridge, seeing the same grim understanding in every face. They had ended the Drekari threat in less than an hour. They had also revealed to the galaxy exactly what humans were capable of when pushed to their limits. General, we will be happy to discuss our capabilities. But first, I think it is time the Coalition understood why humans truly shun war. As the human fleet began the grim task of destroying the remaining Drekari vessels, Dr. Wright made a final log entry. The galaxy wanted to see human courage in battle. Instead, they have seen human ruthlessness in survival. The Coalition will never again question our commitment to peace. Not because we are weak, but because they now understand the alternative. The war was over. The Drekari threat had been ended permanently. But the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. They had learned why humans shun war. Not from cowardice, but from the terrible knowledge of what they become when peace is no longer an option. 6 months later, the Galactic Council reconvened in emergency session. The topic was no longer the Drekari threat, but a proposal for the Universal Peace Accord, a treaty that would make warfare itself illegal throughout the galaxy. The proposal had been submitted by humanity. Every species in the galaxy voted to ratify it immediately.